Now, Chibok, that particular thing was in 2014. And they say that 98 are still in custody.
Of the 276 schoolgirls that were kidnapped back then. And one of them is Leah Sharibu.
Yeah.
We prayed for her a lot.
And we don't know if she's alive. We had heard that she had 2 or 3 kids now through channels out of Nigeria. And but there's nothing, you don't hear about them. They're gone. It just, the parents.
Very tragic. It's
the parents
heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is. They just lost a daughter. I mean, this is terrible that these people get away with this stuff.
It is.
Established in 2002, Boko Haram is an internationally recognized Islamist terrorist group. And make sure that you need to know that they're responsible for the deaths and kidnappings of thousands of Nigerians. And, of course, Western education is forbidden. And, of course, they discourage Western ideals. Now, there are other militant groups in Nigeria. And, of course, Nigeria winds up as a country of particular concern by the U.S. State Department. Yeah, it should be particular concern. It would require the United States to address religious persecution in Nigeria that has caused the death of more than 50,000 Christians over the last 15 years, with Christians dying every 2 hours on the average. So the population is 48.1% Christian and 50% Muslim.
It's really close.
Yeah. And I can't believe that they get away with this nonsense. And the Muslims, they're in the north, the Christians are in the south. And Nigeria is one of the most populous countries in Africa, but it's economically profitable, but it's been a mess over there. And so, pray for Nigeria. Got to be nice to see Leah Sharibu and all these other girls returned.
Yes.
And this is, and that's the thing about the persecuted church. That's the thing about being on the front lines. When these wicked do these things and take these girls and some of the boys too, they never come back. Not usually, but we have seen them come back. But it's just terrible. And are you ready?
Yes, I'm going to read Aid for Persecuted Christians. This story comes to us via Barnabas Aid. It's an Easter appeal, aid for Christians suffering violence and injustice, war and conflict, fear and pain, death and destruction, corruption and injustice. Perhaps you are feeling overwhelmed by events across our world. People are predicting a third world war. Some say it has already started. Add to that the starving millions in Ethiopia and other drought-stricken countries. The looming global medical disaster as antibiotics begin to fail, and the island nations gradually disappearing as the sea rises. Add to all those the persecution of faithful Christians in a world of intolerance and hatred. Whether or not we have personal troubles to bear, the troubles of the world are crushing us all. We are all grieving and mourning. Let us then grasp hold of Jesus' promise to provide for those who grieve. Isaiah 61:3. a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, and a garment of praise instead of a spirit of despair. Our Lord Jesus, who conquered death itself when he rose from the grave on the first Easter Sunday, delights to heal and restore, to cleanse and renew. Ashes were a traditional sign of mourning, including mourning for one's own sins. That is why, in some church traditions, a period of preparation before Easter begins with Ash Wednesday. But our risen Lord will gently brush away the ashes from our heads, anoint our heads with joy, and place on each one of us a beautiful crown. He will take away the despair that is weighing so heavily on us and clothe us with praise. And there's a picture of Santal Christian women in Bangladesh, and behind them are new brick homes which Barnabas Aid built for them after their old wooden homes were deliberately burned to the ground. And with your support, we have the privilege and joy of bringing practical help to our Christian brothers and sisters suffering violence and injustice. For Christians in Nigeria, ashes are more than symbols of sorrow. They are literal reality. Thousands have seen their homes, possessions, and crops turn to ashes when extremists set them on fire. We cannot give them a crown of beauty, but we can give them roofing sheets to help them rebuild. And many of them are mourning for loved ones killed in these attacks, and only the Lord can anoint them with the oil of joy. But we can give them sacks of grain and bottles of cooking oil so they do not go hungry. And our Lord can replace their despair with a garment of praise. Only the Lord can replace their despair with a garment of praise, but we can provide blankets to give warmth at the night. And as Easter approaches, will you help Christian victims of violence? Nigeria is just one of many countries where Barnabas Aid is helping Christian victims of violence. And if you would like to help provide relief, you can go to barnabasaid.org to help our brothers and sisters suffering from violence around the world. And thank you.
Well, I have a different one. You read the one down below.
Because it's for Easter, and Easter's coming up in a week and a half. Would you like me to read Nigerian politics?
Well, that was the one that we were...
I can go ahead and read that.
No, that's okay. We'll go on because I'll move it one back and one forward. So now we're at Azerbaijan. I just shake my head because there's so much trouble. It just, all the time, there's trouble.
There is.
And, you just don't, even though Nagorno-Karabakh, recognized as Artsakh to Armenians, is internationally recognized as a part of Azerbaijan. Many still contest the validity of this fact. And of course, this is where the problem is. There's always problems. These people just soon kill each other as look at each other. Over the past decade, Azerbaijan has shown its intent to rid Armenian culture, which is synonymous with Christianity, including destroying important monuments and historical churches from within Armenia and Nagorno-Karabakh. Azerbaijan has taken advantage of the war in Ukraine by pushing back the Russian peacekeepers' position within its borders and on the Lakan Corridor Road, the only way for Nagorno-Karabakh to receive resources by land. Now, this is an update from International Christian Concern. And they put this out once a year, it's a big study that they do. And so this thing was published some time ago, and I go through various parts. This is Azerbaijan. But see, there's been some changes to this since then. And they've opened up the road, and of course the Armenians, there's some issues there with where they're going to wind up. And it's just, it's just gut-wrenching, because you take people and you move them out. They don't have jobs. They don't have nothing, and people get killed. Well, at any rate, in Armenia, the Christian population is 93% of the Christian of the whole place. So Christian population 2.8 million, which is 93%.
That's a lot.
Yeah. No wonder they want to stop them. And Christianity is ingrained in Armenian culture. That's because they grew up with it. The population is 10.21 million. So that's the total population, and the Christian population is 2.8 million. So you have 96% Muslim, 65% Shia, 35% Sunni, and 4% other, including Christians. So guess what? 2.8 million is a lot of people.
Yes, it is.
But not if you have a lot more Muslims. There's 10.21 million altogether, and 96% are Muslim. That the other 4% are others, including Christians. So that shows you that although you have 2.8 million, it ain't enough. And of course, this is, the Christian population is always targeted all the time. The issue with Nagorno-Karabakh is not whether its physical location is part of Armenia or Azerbaijan, but much bleaker. What we should be asking is, can the people survive Azerbaijan's regime after it has been fully taken over by Azeri forces? Or will the people be put in a position to choose their heritage, culture, significant sites, and years of ancestral land over their lives simply because they are historically and ethnically Armenian Christians? In other words, you could lose absolutely everything. And of course, this has been a big deal, and I haven't heard much from them for a long time. But it's really a lot of trouble. And what they normally do, they attack your life and attack your property. And that's basically what a lot of them do over there. And not just in Azerbaijan, but in a lot of other places as well. If they can find you in your church, they'll burn your church down with you in it. So attacks on life and property, that's about the way it is. And if you have someone that comes into a big group into America, that's what they're going to do here too. The only difference of it is there's a lot of guns in America, and they will shoot back. So these things are things that you need to pray about. And